Andrew, so I've got lots and lots of questions always about relationships. I'm sure you know this. I, yeah. Anyway, let's not go into that. I want to ask you the first question. The very first question is, in the start of a relationship, specifically a romantic relationship, it often feels like, for lack of better words, that you're in heaven. So how do you then distinguish, let's say you've been dating now for, I don't know, 6 months, not entirely sure what the time frame is, but six months. How do you distinguish between love and infatuation?
Okay, well, it's quite simple. If you run by your brain or you run by your mind are two different things. So
What do you mean?
we'll take it from the basics and we're going to take it to, let's call it advanced. So the basic idea and the advanced idea are they're going to seem very different, but they're all the same. But the basic idea is this: when we are, let's say we're driven by our brain. In other words, our biology. So our biology, it doesn't care whether we're happy, it doesn't care whether we are successful. Our biology is just going to fire off everything which makes us feel good. So for us to get into a relationship, and let's say when, we can go back in time, we go back when we're very young, when we first navigating this relationship landscape. And then also when we're older, when we've had several relationships or we've had a relationship for a very long time, what are the differences? Now, even when you're older, if you go into a new relationship, you still experience all of this biology stuff which fires off of you. So the biology is linked to, it's called pair bonding. And the whole idea is to make sure that it arrests your mind just long enough for you to procreate. Now, that's the basic idea. So the basic idea is, yes, you fall in infatuation, you get completely absorbed in this. They call this the honeymoon phase. And from a biological level, it lasts anything between, let's call it, I'll go really, really small, but it's like at least 3 months. So like 90 days, 6 months time. That's like really small. To about, they say about, let's call it 2 years. So that's like your maximum space and time. There are people that have been in a relationship for longer than 2 years and think, oh my gosh, it's still a honeymoon phase. And that's still cool. But your biology is just like it's getting you prepared just to make sure that you pair bond well enough to make sure that you carry the relationship to the point that you actually have offspring. But that's at the biology level. That's at the very basic level. At a mind level, we have goals that we want to achieve. We got businesses to run. We got jobs to go to. We got things to attend to. So relationships are different. So at a mind level, we'll start making decisions of going, okay, is this person the one for me? Let's say we want to succeed. We want to make lots of money. We do lots of work. And our work, or even let's just say you're a lecturer or something like that, or a school teacher, you're getting lots of information. So you're very busy. But when you stop your work, you want to have this relationship. And sometimes let's say your business life or your work life or just the things that you want to get done in your own life are very important to you. You will offset your relationship between those things. So let's say a business wants you to fly to Alaska, but your relationship is in South Africa. It's like, well, now I'm torn, which one do I follow? And if you work orientated, let's say you go to Alaska, but now you have what's called a long-term relationship, and the honeymoon phase or all of these emotions will change, and so on and so forth. So if we're driven by our mind, we will go into a relationship with a much bigger expectation or a different expectation. Driven by your biology, well, you just get arrested. And especially when we're young, we go into a first relationship and then we have a breakup. It really impacts us pretty hard. So it like hits you really hard because your biology is firing off thinking, the species are not going to procreate anymore. I'll never be accepted by another human being again. I've been rejected. And, so it's like massive collapse. Now, we're stuck in between these two places because in the beginning, we don't have this experience. We don't have people talking to us about these relationships. We don't have people preparing us. And here's one of the biggest things about humans. Even if you are prepared, you've got someone around you saying, okay, be careful of these pitfalls in your relationship. That everyone goes, oh, no, that'll never happen to me. I've got this. It's all fine. Everything's going to be great. Everything is so wonderful now. The person I'm involved with is, like the best person. We never fight. We always have these deep, meaningful conversations, or, we never have conversations, but just being around this person is so amazing. And then one day it's like, this person's really annoying me, and yeah, I don't even know why I'm here, and they never do what I want, and they're always wanting to go out, and I want to stay home. I've got stuff to do. So like we completely conflicted. So the basic level of relationship of, how long does this thing last? Or how do you know the difference between whether you're in love or whether you're just infatuated? Here's a simple way to do it. If you think you're in love, just wait longer. And when you think you're in love again, just wait a little longer. In other words, wait until the biology calms down, and then you really get to the point of going, okay, wait, actually, I do love this person. And one of the things of, there's a debate out there, is love an emotion or is love a decision? And when I first heard the term that love was a decision, I was like, that sounds weird, because that doesn't sound like anything I was told since I was young. Everyone thinks like, oh no, love is this. When you get washed away, you get swept off your feet, the person meets all your needs, everything is met by them, you feel significant, important, you feel amazing around them, you must be in love with them. But the thing is, if your emotions come and go, so for example, like sadness or even anger or anxiety, or if your emotions will come and go, but the love still remains, that means that love will lean more into a decision than an actual feeling. So if you love a person, they'll upset you. You can get angry with them, and you can be angry. You can even have an argument and go to two separate parts of the house. But because you made the choice to love them, or that you do love them, that's the choice you've made, then you'll be able to settle down, and when your emotions relax, when you stop being arrested by your emotions, and you can come back and have a decent conversation about it, maybe talk it through, and the relationship doesn't just fall apart because one person gets upset. So the thing is, the difference between infatuation and emotion, or let's call it love, I would say, if you want to know if you're in love with a person, again, wait longer. Now, I'm not saying that, okay, now wait 10 years before you tell the person you love them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, because sometimes we can either weaponize love, or we can, sometimes we're using love because we feel that we need significance and importance. So we want the person to say, we want to hear the person say, I love you too. So we'll go first and we say, I love you. And then we're waiting for the person to go, I love you too. And then all they say is thank you, or I know, or whatever it is. And it's like, that wasn't what I wanted. So we're stuck in this whole thing. And we're also stuck in fear, because we're in fear that if we say to the person, I love you, a few things could happen. You can either chase them away, or you could, they just sit there and go, okay, like, thanks. And we're waiting for, like, but don't you love me back? Like, what's wrong with me? So all of these emotions will be triggered and carrying on. So here's where it gets very simple. If you really want to know if you're infatuated or in love with a person, whether it's the first time you say to someone, I love you, or not, when you say I love you, and you totally, if I could I'd say the word, if you're neutral about it, when you just say to the person, I love you, regardless of what they say back to you, regardless of how they behave, regardless of whatever that triggers in them and what it triggers in you, if you're at that space and you can say those words without wanting anything in return, I think you're pretty good. You're pretty good. So you're a bit further away from infatuation. And what I mean by, we also weaponize love. Sometimes we're in a fresh relationship, we're going out a bit, we spend time together, things get a little hot and heavy, but, you've got your own values, I've got mine. And the person's like, well, if we loved each other, we'd do more than just that. We'd gevoel on the couch a bit more, or we'd just go a little further than normal. Because if you love me, of course you'll give it up. And so we can also weaponize that. And at the same time, when we hear these words, if it really fires off these massive emotions, we've got to watch that. And what I mean by that is, when you hear someone say, I love you, I'm not saying that it's like you just got to be completely flat and it's like, thank you, neutral. Yes, I love you back. Okay, fine. Can we get on with the day? I'm not saying that either. I'm talking about getting out of being arrested by your emotions. And here's the weird thing about emotions. Emotions justify your behavior. Emotions justify the way you feel. Even when you're angry, you feel very justified about being angry. You feel very justified about being sad. And people say, you'd feel the same thing if you're in my position. So going from the very basic to the very advanced, the very basic is it's kind of like going surfing for the first time. You're going to get caught up in the waves. The waves are probably going to roll you. You're probably going to you're going to get turned upside down. You're going to get wet. You need to learn how to swim. And then the advanced part is when you go surfing. If you really know how to surf, it's like you just get on the surfboard and you jump on the wave. You surf the wave. It was great, and it's very exhilarating. And yes, no matter where you are on the spectrum, when you hear someone say "I love you" and they mean it, whether it's a brand new relationship or one that you've been in for, let's call it 50 years. I'm going to go big. Yeah, there is a sense in there because it gives you a sense of security. It gives you a sense of fulfillment. It gives you a sense of significance. It gives you a sense that you are important to another person. And all of these things are really cool. And that's part of the thing is the more developed you are, the more you develop yourself. What I say to people is sometimes it's like life becomes almost seems boring because you're not really taken by this emotion too much. The thing is, it still is there. In other words, even when someone says, I love you, you've been in a relationship for 50 years. That sense of significance and importance, and let's put it like this. You move from being, wanting to be significant and important, where now this thing gives you more meaning in life. This is a meaningful endeavor. It's not about just having kids and then the kids eventually leave the house because then there you go, your job is done. But having the person still around you gives you a lot of meaning. So now when you hear those words, I mean, it really is still cool and it's still fantastic. And it's also very reassuring. So we're looking for this reassurance that if what I'm doing, is getting us to the greater goal, and you're on board still, then I can keep doing it. I'm not neglecting anybody. So sometimes people think, you don't spend enough time with me. Maybe you don't love me anymore. It's like, no, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because first off, I want to buy us a big house, for an example. And then the other person stays at home. It's like, well, why are you cleaning up? Or why are you doing renovations? Or why are you deciding to just paint a wall? There's nothing wrong with the wall. It's like, I'm doing this because I love you. It's because this is what I want to do. And this is the thing with two people, regardless of how one person has their mind sorted out or their life sorted out, you've got two people in this game and they don't necessarily see the world from the same perspective. So, loving the person is having the ability of seeing your world through their eyes. Whether you leave home for 12 hours and you only get back later, or whether you're staying at home the whole time, or, whether, I don't know, let's say on a lazy day, you guys spend time just sitting together, reading a book, watching a movie, having long chats, or on a quiet day, it's like, okay, well, I don't have time to do all these other things, or today's going to be a day where, I don't know, I just want to do a hobby. I'm not a big fan of fishing. In fact, I don't fish at all. I'm just going to use it as an example. It's like the person's like, I need some decompression time. And it's like, cool, I think that's going to be the best thing for you. So why don't you disappear for the day? I'm going to miss you for the day. But I know when you get back, you're going to be way more recharged and you're going to give me way more, I'm going to get more value from being around you. You're not going to be as crabby or as bitchy or as moany or as whatever it is. You're going to be more calm because you're going to feel like you've had a break. And I think that's, so the difference between the infatuation and love itself, infatuation, very much it's when you feel that emotional draw that you just can't be without them, the air is going to get sucked out of the room if they leave. Now that to me is a warning sign. It's really cool. It's really nice. But it's an emotional thing. So of course the best thing is can you marry both? Can you still be infatuated with the person and still be in love with them as the relationship develops? So so that's the thing is, I'd say if it's a new relationship of any kind, whether it's your first relationship or and I'm going from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. Let's say you've had like 26 different relationships. Even when you're going to even though it's new, the 27th relationship, you're still going to have these beginning feelings because we like novelty, we like the newness. So your biology will still encourage you to feel all these things. And of course, the best thing is if you can keep your relationship count low so that you're not just hopping over to one relationship because this one, stopped being fun because, again, the honeymoon period ends. I'll give you an example where I'll remove the names to protect the innocent. I've got a friend of mine, every time they get a puppy, the whole house is excited. And then eventually when the puppy becomes a dog, they give the dog away and they get another puppy. And they get a dog. Every time the dog becomes a puppy, sorry, other way around. Every time the puppy becomes a dog, they give the dog away and they get another puppy because they just want to keep in that cycle the whole time. But it's like, this thing is going to mature. It's going to grow up. What's it going to look like when it grows up? What does it look like when all the emotional feelings disappear? What does it really look like? And there you can start to distinguish it. So yeah, and when you're young and when you start out on this journey, and I speak from experience, I mean, it is, to me, it's like the best thing in the world. It's just so cool. You're willing to jump over mountains, you're willing to go through snowstorms, you're willing to do things you'd never normally do. You're so prepared to just meet the person's needs. If the person asks, oh man, I love flowers, it's like, oh man, I skip to the shop and I'll buy you flowers, and I skip back just to see your face light up, and I put them in the pot for you, and I stare at you, watching you smile, and it's like so fucking awesome. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. And it's so awesome, and that's how it feels, and it's lacquer. It's really, really cool. The thing is, and again, speaking from experience, when those emotions disappear and suddenly you're arguing for no good reason, and sitting there thinking, why are we actually fighting about something? Or what is the argument about? Or what's going on here? Because the biology changes. The brain gets into the other side of going, okay, are they actually going to stick around? Are they going to put up with the bad times? Are they going to put up with hard times? And how do they deal with hard times? So now the biology kicks into a different mode to really put them under some sort of pressure test. And it's all unconscious. And you start putting the person under a pressure test, and the person thinking, like, what happened to the person that I met like a week ago or 6 months ago, or whatever it is? And it's like, this is weird. And that's where you get people that's like, okay, now this is suddenly just becoming hard, and they jump ship because we've never been exposed to the reality of what a relationship actually takes to manage. Going into a relationship it's harder than going into a job, and it's harder than running a company, because you've got to run the relationship, and sometimes your relationship feels like work. It feels like a job. And that's actually the idea, is because it's not a case of, the game is not to get into a relationship or how many relationships you can have. It's, can you stay in relationship? That's the game. And yeah, you can only get to that space when you remove that infatuation, that false chemical soup that you live in. Because life isn't the same as what it was before. We don't get married for the same reasons we did before. We don't get into relationships for the reasons we did before. And what I mean by before, don't just think of yesterday or last week or 10 years ago. Go back, it's 1,000 years. Keep it short. Go back 1,000 years. What do you think you got into a relationship for? Why do you think that back in the tribes it was like, you will marry that person, or these people will be together, or you find someone in the tribe, or whatever that is? What do you think you guys were getting together for? And we are still living with a brain which is made for that period, but we're living in a completely different period with the same brain. Yeah, so it's more important that you bring your mind online before your brain just washes you away, because your brain will take you into a dark alley. Your mind will realize that the dark alley is dangerous. Did I answer the question?
You did. You just made me think of lots more. So you briefly mentioned long-term, not long-term, long-distance relationships. So you don't need to, well, unless you really want to. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but you don't need to drag it out but if you want to, you're more than welcome to. Do you think so? I know of a few long distance relationships, and I know that my parents were in a long distance relationship when they were young, for instance. And do you think it works successfully? And do you think a relationship can start off like that? And if your answer is no, I want to know why.
Well, of course, the relationship can start off like that, especially in today's modern times. Like even now, we're not even in the same room, but we can see each other. So you could literally be in Alaska. You could be somewhere around the world, and I can see you. We can chat, and then of course through the chat, I think, oh my gosh, she's so much whatever, and eventually I find myself buying a plane ticket, or I either fly to you or you fly to me. Or back in the day, you jump on a ship, for our love, and we'd find each other and meet each other, and then discover that we fight and want to kill each other. But so can a relationship start long distance? For sure. And can a relationship survive long distance? Absolutely. The statistics are just against you, because statistically, being away from the person, again, your biology is very short-sighted. It literally looks around in the room and goes, what's nearby? Because we can't carry on the species if you're overseas. But I can definitely carry on in the species if someone is, down the street, next door. I can definitely carry the species on. And again, this is also the challenge, because when we have these uncomfortable discussions, it's an uncomfortable discussion because we live in a romantic idea that, we watch Disney, or we've been to places that say, this is what the relationship is and this is what it must be. And we forget what human nature looks like. And we forget that, again, people run by their brain will generally suffer very bad things from a long-term relationship. They're going to suffer abandonment. They're going to feel like the person abandoned them. They're going to suffer the fact that they're alone. They're going to suffer the fact that the person's not there to support them. And it works both ways. And I coach people, I counsel people. I've got friends that do this. I've got a friend now. They've, for 6 months, they were living in 2 different countries. They were trying to immigrate. They're still waiting for the immigration to come through. So now he's like, in the beginning, he shipped his whole house overseas. And now, while this is still going through, it's going to take another 6 months. And now he's shipped everything back again. And then 6 months' time, he's going to ship everything back overseas again. It's a nightmare. And yeah, it's tough. So the long distance relationship stuff is, it's harder than you think. And let's go back to the infatuation. Let's go back to the infatuation. When we are arrested or we're flooded by emotions and we think, oh, everything's going to be great. Yeah, no, in the moment we are delusional, because we don't realize how tough it's going to be. And also, let's just play the game simply. If each person, and let's say we go to 2 different countries, if both of us are isolated, so let's say I go on a boat to, let's keep it simple, and I'm exaggerating for effect. I jump on a boat which goes to the South Pole, you jump on a boat which goes to the North Pole. So we're far away from each other, but we're isolated. The potential for that to survive is strong, because eventually when we both get back and we meet in the middle, let's say we met on the equator, and we get off the boats and it's like, oh my gosh, there you are. Yeah, it'll survive because we've both been isolated. We haven't, in essence, changed our mind. There's this placeholder in our mind. At the same time, there's another long distance relationship. So let me talk about 2. The one where we are very clear that we are, let's call it, meant for each other, or that I want to be in relationship with this person forever. They've also decided, and there's a decision. They've decided they want to be in relationship with me forever. Yeah, and now for the next year or 2, I need to go work on the oil rigs for, let's say, 2 years, so that we can make whatever it is. This is the big part of the goal. And if we both decide that and we both know that, then a long-term relationship can survive for sure. But again, that's a decision made at the level of mind. It's made at the level of, this is the bigger picture. And we've made a decision, and we stick with our decisions, and we follow through on our decisions. It's not an emotional decision. And that's why I say statistically, the stats work against you, because going away from the person, you start losing the connection. You find other people. You've got a circle around you. There's just so many other factors going around you. And then, of course, because the feelings disappear, you start changing your mind that maybe I didn't love the person in the first place. Or, maybe again, let's call it that 6 months honeymoon just disappears. And then the person arrives one day off the plane and you're looking at them thinking, this person's a stranger. I got no feelings towards this person. And because I got no feelings towards them, it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't be together. So, yeah. And in the beginning, this all sounds like, okay, I'm not landing on one particular place. And this is the interesting part, is the ones that are really convinced about everything are the ones who don't know the whole big picture, because they only know a very small part of the puzzle. And the ones who think they know everything are the ones who are most dangerous, because they will never prepare you for the pitfall. They'll never prepare you for the bad times. And they'll just prepare you for delusion. And this is why when the bad times hit, it's harder than you ever expected. So I'm not a doom and gloom person of saying never go into a long-term relationship or long-distance relationship. Never go into a relationship that you've met from, over long distance where it started like that. I'm not saying don't ever have a relationship where if you are together and then the person goes away for a while and it's like, oh, statistically we'll just never be together. So let's break up now. No. So all of these things are very tough. And that's also why I have multiple perspectives on these things. And it's like you've got to swing from, let's call it the bare basic, the bare minimum. You go from newbie and you want to go to ninja. So you go from very basic to very high level. You go from all of the good stuff to what is the absolute disaster. And then you can fill the gaps in between. And that also prepare you for the challenges which come into relationship, even to the point of, even I've been in a relationship with a person or I meet someone new. It's fun to be in relationship with a person for a while, and then you can sit back and go, this doesn't fit my long-term goals, or this doesn't actually meet my needs. It met a very good need to, they were lonely. I was looking for someone to have fun with in the sense that they go out all the time. We party a lot. We've got lots of friends. There's lots of jokes. There's lots of fun going on. It's like, that's really cool. And then where do you want to take your life? So a relationship in many ways is one of the biggest decisions you can ever make. And this thing can literally either make or break you. But we get lost in this idea. And if you're not prepared or good at a relationship, and especially let's say you're not good at relationship and you're going to a bad relationship, it'll affect you even more. So one of the ideas I'll bounce this idea off you actually. It's an idea I've been thinking about recently. And I look at it, in the beginning, I was thinking about a 4-lane highway, but it's not a 4-lane highway. It's just it's a 2-lane highway going past each other. So you've got 2 lanes of traffic going in one direction. You've got another 2 lanes going in the opposite direction. And if you just keep it simple, so if you're looking at it from above, you've got 4 lanes, but they're in different directions. And on the far left, you got, let's say let's say they're a train wreck. They're a disaster. And on the other side, you've also got a train wreck and a disaster. Because when I listen to people and I listen to podcasts and they're always going, oh, when you're in a relationship and these women are always a mess, or you're in a relationship and these men are always idiots. And, everyone has the assumption of going, one of the people is totally okay and the other person's the problem. It's like, okay, wait. There are places where both are the problem. So the man can be a complete narcissist. He can be a complete idiot. He can also just be a complete wimp. At the same time, a woman can be a complete train wreck and just completely needy and just suck the life out of you. So it's not about the women are wrong or the men are wrong. It's like, wait. In both sides of this equation, we have, and we narrow it down, making it brutally simple. Let's talk it from a man's point of view. Let's say you got one that's well put together, can, really, they're just well put together. And then you got one who's not. Their life is a complete disaster. And you look at the female and go, okay, there's a woman that their mind is, or their life is well put together. And then you look at the other one as also a complete disaster. Now, just based on those four people, or those 4 different categories, it's like, okay, if 2 people who are well put together get into a relationship, it sounds pretty cool. But I mean, if 2 people, their lives are a disaster, they're in a relationship, I mean, you can imagine what the relationship will look like. At the same time, you have, let's say, a woman is really clear about her stuff. She's very well put together. She goes into a relationship with a guy who's a complete moron. His life is a train wreck. I mean, that's it's a recipe for disaster, and the same thing. So it's like, you got to look at it. To make it too simple is making it too simple. The thing is also, you want to simplify. You can only simplify it when you know how complicated this thing can get. And that's why when I try and simplify it, it still sounds complicated, but it's about as simple as you can get it, because there's many different factors which you'll take into account. And here's what I really discovered, and I'll speak from experience. When both parties, their life is a complete train wreck and they're emotionally driven, I've got to tell you, that kind of relationship is an absolute joy. It's a party. It's a great time. It's like every festival is an excuse to go out. Every encounter is an excitement. Whatever it is, it's a complete adventure. But the thing is also, you eventually stop that slowly and you sit down and go, okay, but wait, where's the rest of my life? Like all of my funds that I'm making is going into just having a party, or we're getting the next hit of just feeling cool, or I want to get washed in this wave all the time. And it's we humans that live on Earth and we live on the ground. We don't live in the ocean, but you have a bunch of people. It's like, I just want to surf all day. It's like, okay, well, if you spend too much time in the water, eventually your skin's going to prune. And yeah, we weren't built for that. So it's fun in the beginning. It's lacquered to go and surf all day or whatever it is. But when you're finally stuck in the ocean, in the middle of the ocean, and it's dark, and the big fish are swimming around your legs, and it's like, I don't know. Suddenly I realized that this wasn't actually as much of a good idea as I thought it was in the beginning.
Mm.
So, yeah, so being flooded with emotion and going into that stuff and being infatuated. I mean, it's so cool. It really is. It really is. It's also so dangerous and so
It's
it's so disastrous. I
it
mean, you can
is.
make it through. So let me just
Mm,
put it like it. People do make it through. If you look at it as a phase, if you can do that and you make it through, oh, that's great. Once again, but people get to they make up a story in the mind. It will never happen to me, or we'll be the ones who will make it through. And generally, they don't. And
mm,
generally, the one who's complaining about the other one, about how much of a problem the other one is, generally they're actually the problem and the other person's not the problem. Generally.
mm.
Yeah. So
Well, your story about the highway, the 4 lanes, it answered my next question, so I'm not gonna ask that. Um, but I kind of have. Uh, it's a weird question. I think it's a weird question because it's kind of a new thing. Well, to me it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm living under a rock, but to me it's a new thing. So and it links to projections with the conversation I had with Johan. And so in a relationship, you have your projection, you're in love with this person, and they're just beautiful and wonderful, the honeymoon phase, as you call it. Well, as most of us know it. And then you get something called the ick. And I've heard that it's usually something stupid like them brushing the other person brushing their teeth or brushing their like literally just a stupid thing. So how like why does that matter? Because to me, I honestly do not give a fuck how someone brushes their teeth. Um, but I do recognize that maybe it's just a projection, and now suddenly that projection's not there anymore, and they see something and they have something to blame on. Like that's the reason why I don't know. What's your thoughts on the ick?
yeah, the equal projection. Okay, so the ick is simple. I mean, I got another guy where you'll date a girl until she takes her shoes off. In other words, as soon as he sees her feet, if her feet doesn't send him over the line, doesn't excite him, he's like, ah, no, she's got weird feet. Her feet look like hands on the ground, and it
And
just sends.
it is probably strange because another person will look at her feet and go like, Those are pretty normal feet."
Well, feet are feet. And well, this is a part of projection. So if you want to go into deep psychology of what that looks like, that's a different rabbit hole to go down. But let's just talk about the ick. So the ick is exactly one of those things where everything seems to be fine, and they'll do one thing which is, like, I'll give you an example, like creepy. When I was let's call it coming up, I couldn't understand when girls said, the guy's being creepy. And from a man's perspective, I'd look at him and was like, what is he doing? He's just staring. Because it doesn't affect me. That's not like, I don't understand it. And then finally, I grasped the idea of what creepy looks like. It's like, oh, wait, the person's coming from a space of being very needy and very objectifying. And so the ick is one of those things that, once again, if you're not stable, and you haven't explored, let's just call it your own inner world, then anything will trigger you. And there are certain things which will make you feel the ick, or they make it, there's called I think it's called the disgust reflex. So one of the things I heard one day, the woman says, okay, take a shot glass and then you spit in it. So you just take your own spit, you spit in a shot glass. You just wait for that to cool down. And then you drink it. You sip it back. Now, there you go. Yeah. So like everyone is just listening to it. It's like, oh my gosh, like no way. It's like, ugh. Like there's the ick right there. Because it just freaks you out. It just sounds so icky. It sounds so weird. So of course, if it's the ick, the ick's also a biological thing, where things that'll freak you out, or I think it's called the disgust reflex. If things disgust you, then it doesn't make for a good biological pair. That's on the one side. At the same time, it's just things that are sitting in your own mind that just really freak you out. And of course, there are certain things which are deal breakers. In other words, it's not a good thing. So don't get mistaken thinking that, you can deal with everything and you should never have the ick and nothing will ever affect you or anything like that. That's not the discussion. But when people get the ick, because watch this emotional thing. The moment that a person gets an ick, it drains all the emotion out, and suddenly it's like, I don't want to be near this person. Which once again, that's part of that infatuation, part of this emotional flooding. And as soon as that drains out, if everything else, like the entire construction that you built around this person, disappears with that one thing, then that's not love. I'm not putting it out there that anybody can do whatever they want and they can freak people out and think they can either have a license to do it or that it's okay. Because there are certain things which is like you just don't do. And living in a modern society, or living in a, let's call it what's the word? Not society, culture. Certain cultural things won't freak you out. Other cultural things will. And if it's your culture, then you tend to deal with a lot more things. So the ick itself, man, it's more complicated than it sounds. It's literally what we just spoke about. So I'll try and keep it simple. When the person has an ick, most of the time it's a good excuse to pull a parachute in the relationship. You feel yourself falling, and then it's like, oh, there we go. I'm going to use that as an example, or that as the excuse. I pull a parachute. I'm out of it. You ick me. You freak me out. I don't want to be near you, and you're just looking for an excuse to run. But here's where it gets interesting, and you're talking about projection. We project and we say it's because of the other person. They were just doing their thing. We had the ick. We got the issue, and we're projecting our issue onto them, and we go, you make me feel this way. So and again, that's another open field to discuss, because it's very difficult to learn that it's not the world out there which is doing this to you. It's the world inside of you which is doing it back to you. And again, for those of you who are starting the journey, it's not a question of going, okay, this gives you a license or a reason or the excuse that everything is acceptable. That's not what I'm speaking about, and that's not the discussion, because there are certain things which aren't acceptable. I'll give you another discussion or another exploration I had recently in what they call the prisoner's dilemma. So if you there's a game called the prisoner's dilemma. And when you play the prisoner's dilemma, you can either cooperate or you can what's called defect. You defect? I think it's called defecting.
Like be the policeman or the prisoner.
No. Wait, let me just check I think it's called defect. It just sounds wrong to me. Let me just because I literally made a note of this like recently.
I'm gonna cut this part out, okay?
Defect or defect. Okay, so let me make it simple. You can either cooperate or you can go against it. You can, man, I'm looking for a word.
Resist.
Well, let's call it betray. Okay, let's keep it simple. You can either cooperate or you can betray the other person. But now the way the prisoner's game works, the prisoner's dilemma works, is you're in two separate rooms and you have options. If you collaborate, you only get a very small reward, but you both get a small reward. But if you
Betray?
Thank you. But if you betray the other one, they get nothing and you get a big reward. So now if you play that game and you look and you think, okay, wait, if I betray that person, I get a bigger reward than if I collaborate with the person. And this is where it gets strange. Or this is where the thing really opens up the door. If you play the prisoner's dilemma once, the person who betrays the other person always comes out on top. So you win. But that's if you play the game once. However, if you play the game multiple times, and this is what society is, and even in relationships, when we're in a relationship, we're not just playing the game once, we're playing the game multiple times on multiple levels at multiple stages through our relationship. It's always better to collaborate. So the more you collaborate and the more you cooperate, the win is much bigger on the end. So if you're talking about the ick and how these things come together and the projection, they tie into each other because the moment I project something onto the person or I have an ick with them, it's easier to betray because you'll feel like you get the bigger reward. So you walk out, let's call it, you're thinking as you're the winner. And of course, the other person is the loser. But if you really want this relationship to last, the best is collaborate and cooperate with each other, going, okay, wait, when you do that, I get the ick. Here's the deal. If you're going to, you got two choices. You either stop doing that completely, or if you want to do that, you never do it in front of me and you never let me know that you're doing it at all, whatever that is. I'm keeping it very simple so that you never get to see whatever the thing is that stimulates your ick. So you never get icked out and you never, your opinion of the person doesn't fall. But of course, once that ick has been planted in your head, it'll sit there for a while. Like it's because we are going to watch this person. It's like, okay, you've icked me out. And now that I know that you're icky, and again, watch on a biological level, you just don't want, if the person's icky, you don't even want them near you. I'll give you a biological response to it. If someone has the same kind of immune system to you, they smell weird. They smell different. And it's weird because like you get close to them and they might be very attractive. So you'll see them, let's say on a video, or you just see them across the lawn, all good. But you get close to them, and it's like, wait, this is something off about them, whether it's conscious or unconscious. And if you get to a level of conscious where you can actually smell what that smells like, and that smell freaks you out, it's like your biology literally resists the other person. You might be thinking, but everything's great about this person. They're ticking all these boxes. This is all great. But at a biological level, because we want diversity inside our immune system, your biology will say that icks you out. Because biology wants you to find someone with a different immune system to you so that you can build better immune systems, that you have a better population. And this is why all of this stuff it's a big challenge because we got a fight between our culture, society. We have a fight between our mind, our goals, and our directives and the bigger game. And we're also fighting with our biology. Our biology is very basic. It's very simple. Our biology doesn't care, what time it is. It doesn't care if you're late. This is all part of a society idea going work starts at 8 and finishes at 5. Or, the only time you get money in your bank is you work and you got a salary. And you got to go to the shop and, all of these things. This is how the society is set up. And of course, there are people fighting against it. Different discussion. But so the difference between where we actually want to go and where our mind takes us. And this is very interesting. If you doubt the power of your mind, think about something long enough and you'll find the body will follow. Think about a shower long enough and you'll eventually find yourself having a shower. Think about a cup of coffee long enough and eventually you'll find yourself having one. So your mind can direct your body. At the same time, there's times where you're sitting there, especially you're watching a movie, and then suddenly your biology is going chocolate. Or how about this one, popcorn? Or lightly salted chips, or some biltong. And you're sitting there watching the movie, and eventually you just can't stop the thoughts going, I just want to go and grab a snack. I have to go so you pause the movie, go grab a snack, and then you sit down. It's like, okay, cool. So your biology will also direct you. It arrests your thoughts. It arrests your mind because there's a craving. So in relationship, we crave each other. We crave excitement. We crave diversity. We crave another person. We crave fun. And here's the weird part. At some level, we even crave a little bit of chaos or a little bit of friction and a little bit of challenge. And, so we crave these things. So we're going to be following this craving. So if you look at that 4-lane highway, yeah, there's some people that have gotten, they've worked their stuff out and let's use a simple word of stable. They still have emotions, but they're stable. Their emotions don't destroy the household. Or you've got on the far end on both sides, they're not stable. Their emotions run their life. They're completely impulsive. For some reason they left home this morning to go to work, and they're supposed to be back at 5. They arrive back at midnight without any shoes on, missing their phone, and it's like, what happened? It's like, I just, I was on the way home, and suddenly thought I needed to go down that dark alley, and suddenly I lost my shoes and my phone and whatever it is, and it's like, why did you do that? It's like, I don't know. I just had this impulse to just do that. I thought that would be great. It's like, you weren't thinking at all. So
Mm.
we are torn between this whole thing. We are both schizophrenic, bipolar, and well to be put together all at the same time. And I think this is the beauty of being human. And it's not about turning humans into robots. And it's not that, we've got to, let's say, make our emotions wrong or our feelings wrong, or even make thinking wrong or logics wrong. Or it's about seeing the whole package for what it's about. Our emotions got us here because without our emotions, we won't have any drive. Our thinking got us here because we figured out going, well, the water's in the lake, and every time I get there, it's cold, and I've got to fight crocodiles and tigers before, what if I put it in a pipe and then I manage to put it in a big bucket, and I put the bucket high above my house, and there's a pipe that runs down, and I put a tap on it, and I open the tap, and suddenly I got running water, and if I build a fire under it, maybe it can be hot. And then one day we invent electricity. Well, we don't invent it, we discover electricity, and we can have a geyser, so we can actually have a hot shower. It's like, it's pretty cool. So what's wrong with logic? What's wrong with thinking? Nothing. It gets us places. And at the same time, our emotions drive us because, we open the tap and it's cold, and it's like, I don't like being cold in the morning. I'd like to be warm. So our emotions will drive us to figure out a problem going, well, how do we stop feeling like that? So here's the simple thing. We are driven away from pain. We're driven towards pleasure. So if you're driven away from a cold shower, you want a hot shower, well then a geyser and electricity it's a good fix. So
Mm.
so all of these things work together, as opposed to turning each of these parts of us into some sort of enemy. We create this idea going, we are a complete ship. You've got a captain of the ship, but you've also got engineering in the working on the engine. You've got to make sure the engine's running. You've also got people running the maintenance. You've got people running how do we look after all of the passengers on board? We've got all the people looking after the hospitality. So we've got all of these things working together, and when they work together, it runs well. People talk about this thing. It's well oiled. It's run like a tight ship. And when I've been on a ship before, and I was actually quite impressed. I know why the saying is like that, because they ran things like clockwork, and it works.
Mm.
And that's the difference. It's like, do you want it to work, or do you want it to just fall apart? And some people, it's like, no, I want it to work, but how can we get it to work by, instead of building things out of steel, can't we just make it with candy floss and spaghetti? It's like, yeah, I know I'm going to hurt your feelings when I say no, you can't, because candy floss and spaghetti is not the same thing. It's not going to work. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, you see, you're so nasty. You never consider my feelings, and you never. It's like, okay, which side of this 4-lane highway are you? And until you got to change lanes. And then here's the ultimate decision. If we are running our lives and relationships based on scarcity, thinking that, relationships are scarce, finding the right person is scarce, I'll never find the right person, there's no one out there for me, well, then you'll settle, and you'll stop looking because there's a placeholder. But when you can get to a space of going, well, we have more than enough options, it's always available. Now the internet, I can meet someone literally in another country. I can start this long-term relationship, have a conversation with them, see what their values are. And if their values align, it's like, yeah, actually, I think, you've met the level of, I've already run the interview process. You've managed to pass the first rounds of interview, and I'm willing to meet you face to face, and then we can go to second interview. And eventually one day you can see if the person is ready to take the position of being partner. I'm making it sounds so pragmatic when I put it like that. But that's
Very
part.
much.
It is part, but it's part of the process, because let's look at it from a woman's point of view. You can't tell me that a woman doesn't filter men. Men
I
rock
know
up. It's
we
like,
definitely
yeah,
do.
you get exactly. So it's the same
Uh,
thing. It's like, nope, don't like you, or nope, not you, and nope, not you, and it's like, Oh, clearly is. Like, how
And
did the interview go? It went badly. I didn't get the part. Didn't get the
it
position.
literally
And
it starts from the get-go, from so I know you can meet people online, but I didn't meet my person online. But it literally starts from the moment they walk up to you, or the moment it starts from then, and we start filtering and filtering. And anyway, we're actually anyway. Females are
you guys
tough.
are great. You guys, no, you guys are great. You're fascinating. You are now. When I was younger, you guys were not only confusing, but they didn't build enough mental asylums to house all of you. But that was a perspective that I had back then, and only because I didn't know. I just didn't know.
Mm,
No one showed me. No one taught me. No one explained it to me. And all the books that I read was just like, basically like, the one side of the world is just completely off their head. The other side is, I don't know, they don't understand, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. So like that's some of the books I read. And then eventually when we finally figure it out, and this happens both ways, like I say, the 4-lane highway, it's not a pretender going, oh yeah, men of like every man on this planet is like, absolutely, they have really got the world the right way and they can. No, they're
mm,
not. No, they're not. No, they're not. So this works both sides. Both sides, the simple conversation that I have with people is we are trained with this idea that one conversation is for the one person and another conversation for the other person. No, it's the same conversation for both. We both got to stop projecting our insecurities on the other person. We both got our own internal work to do. We both got to see it from the other person's perspective. We both got to, let's say, see what it makes the other person. What does it take to make the other person feel significant in your life? How do we put it in words where they don't feel like they are being taken advantage of, put down, or abused? All of the stuff. It's the same conversation for both parties. What does it take for me to see it from your point of view? And once again, same conversation. What does it take for you to leave your mountain, come to mine, and see it from our point of view? Because if
mm,
I'm always leaving my mountain and seeing it from your point of view, and I've done that many times, and I've looked at it and it's like, I see your point of view. Would you just come to my side just to see my point of view for 5 seconds? It's like, no, no, mine's the only mountain in the world. Mine's the only mountain that shows the right perspective. It's like, okay, so you want me to leave my mountain, see it from your point of view, but you are unwilling and unprepared to see it from my point of view at all.
mm,
And here's the challenge. It's like, okay, so you pretend your point of view is correct. Let's pressure test this thing. You've got this bridge going from one island to the next, and you say this bridge is the best bridge in the world. It's like, okay, well then let's put some cargo across it and see if it makes it there. But here's the challenge. It's like every time I put cargo on the bridge fell apart. We lost all the cargo. It sunk into the ocean. And you don't even rebuild the bridge. And then you pretend going, there's still a bridge there. It's like, no. I know that the Nile is a river in Egypt, but delusion is a place that lives in your own mind.
mhm,
In other words, whatever the perspective is a person has, just test it. Just test it. And if it works, use it. It doesn't matter whether it's, the judgment of right, wrong, or otherwise. It's like if it works and it works for you, and I'm talking about honesty, does it work? Does it, if the cargo can go from one island to the other island and it can come back again, put those assumptions to the test. I heard a great one the other day. I'm jumping around a bit, but this is a great one. I heard a comedian talking about someone wrote into him and he said, him and his girlfriend are having a fight,
mm,
and I'll keep the story very general. They tend to use AI quite a lot, and they thought, okay, well, why don't we just do this? Why don't we just put the situation of what we're experiencing? Yeah, see, the face changed already. It's like, oops, I'm in trouble. We can feed it into the AI and see what the AI says. And even the artificial intelligence, we call it artificial. It's very interesting how something which is artificial generally is a little bit more stable than the ones who protest they're stable. Coming back to what I said before, generally the ones who, they sit on the mountain proclaiming, I'm the right one, I'm the smart one, or this is how it must be, or, it's all of their fault, it's all their problem. Generally, and this is projection, generally they're the one with the issue. I'm
mm,
not saying that the other one is innocent, and I'm not saying that the other one is perfect. No. It's probably the other one just couldn't deal with your shit anymore. They just didn't know how to deal with it. And this is where it gets interesting. A person who projects a lot, when they find a person that that can support them and can get them through, their ability to stop projecting and leave it behind is strong. It's very strong. And this is part of relationships. You know, we get to support each other to get better.
Mm.
And this is for both. You know, I want my partner to support me to get better. And then it would be nice if my partner would allow me to support them to get better.
Mm. Before you continue, so like you make me think of the word compromise. Now, um,
Never.
people that don't know, please, 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 in a nice way, tell us why compromise is a bad idea. And when you're done explaining why compromise is a bad idea, can you please give a different way?
Yeah. Well, here's the challenge. We are taught as we are growing up, just compromise.
Mm.
It's the same thing as let's agree to disagree. No, you're lazy. Your neurons are still new and you need to learn how to use them. And what I mean by that is put them to the test. Go and think about this. It's not a case of let's agree to disagree, because what that means is that your brain is under too much pressure that you can't think out of it. And it's like, well, I don't know what to do with this. And the only way that I get out of this argument is I want to hold on to my opinion because I believe I'm right, but you're showing me that I'm not. And this is really messing with me. So I'd rather just walk away holding on to my rightness without actually listening to what we call the truth. Again, another big discussion. But, you know, the difference between your rightness and the truth or reality are two very different things.
Mm.
So when we talk about compromise, we are raised with this idea, just make some compromises, you know, just make some sacrifices. And what compromise, break the word down, promise, you know, you're going against a promise. And compromise is, look at it like this. Compromise is a fishing expedition. You put some nice bait on a big hook and you throw it into the water and you wait for your partner to take a good bite of the bait. And the bait is, okay, I want you to go to, let's say, I'm going to exaggerate. I want you to go to ballet with me, but you don't like the ballet. But I know that you like watching monster cars or whatever it is. So I'll go with you to the monster car expedition and, you know, sitting there hating it and listening to the noise and getting filthy. But you love this. But secretly, I want you to come to the ballet with me. You know, so I've got my hook in you. You've already taken the bait because I've gone with you. And then when you say to the person, why don't you come with me to the ballet? And they're like, no, I'm not going. I don't want to do that. And it's like, you know what? I compromise so much.
Mm.
And compromise also leads to pushing the guilt button. So you want to push the guilt button in the person so much, eventually they feel so guilty that they'll eventually do what you want. And this is the idea. So this whole thing is connected very simply to, you know, you compromise thinking that I'll do whatever it is you want to do because then maybe you'll do what I want you to do. And, you know, then people say, you know, you just need to make compromises, dear. It's like, okay, so here's an interesting game. And again, watch here. This is how you test the bridge. Play compromise out in your life for a while and see how you feel. Because if you're the one always compromising and you're always the one, you know, putting your wants and needs aside, then eventually how do you feel? Do you feel like really cool about it? Or do you sit there thinking, I do everything for everybody and nobody does anything for me? Or, you know, I've done all of these things for so many people and, you know, they just won't come and do my thing. Or every time I go, I always go with them, you know, I always pack the car and I go with them and I sit and watch their thing. But when I go and do my thing, I'm always alone. Well, that's what compromise looks like. So compromise is not worth it's not worth the price of admission. Now, here's the thing is the difference between it's the way you look at it. So if you take a telescope, and I mean the old telescopes, or even a pair of binoculars is probably a better example because it's easier. When you look in one direction, everything looks bigger. When you turn the binoculars around, everything looks further away.
Mm.
So it depends on how you look at this. So when you look at compromise, everyone's like, no, compromise is such a good thing. You know, you just do some compromises, dear. You know, maybe they don't understand it. And, you know, you just have to be the bigger person. And it's like, this does not fill me up at all. But if we can change compromise in a few ways, when we can be adults and we can start to negotiate and we can start to talk to people and say, look, I know you don't like coming with me to the ballet. and I don't like going to the monster truck expedition, whatever it is, or the expo. Now watch these 4 lanes kick into play. When you've got 2 stable people sitting next to each other and they're in the stable lanes, the conversation could look something like this. Okay, I know you don't like going to the monster trucks. I love it. The noise is so cool. You hate the noise. So why don't you just stay home? Watch a nice movie. I'll go on my own. And there's no problem. I'm not coming back with any kind of scorekeeping. And it's like, oh, you didn't come with me, so you need to make dinner tonight. Or no, there's no issue. Simple. Or how about this? The other person's like, I know you hate the ballet. And because I love you, I don't want to torture you, but this is something really for me. And because we love each other, and if I go to the ballet, you're totally okay with it. You get to do your thing. I get to do my thing. No problem. There's no compromise. So there's many ways to break this down, and they can go. So the one person can go to the ballet, the other person goes to the monster trucks, no problem. Here's the bigger deal. If this person is important to me, I'll make no compromise by going to the ballet with them, and they make no compromise with going to the monster trucks with me, or even the other way around. They make no compromise with coming with me to the ballet because I love the ballet and I want to watch ballet. It doesn't matter how you play it. So there's no compromise in the sense of going, this is just part of my responsibilities of being in a relationship. Or how about this? Is because this person is important to me, I will leave my mountain of rightness and righteousness and my opinion, and I'll go with them because I want to see what the ballet looks like. And I'll learn, and I can sit there and it's like, geez, like there's more things to this ballet than I thought. You don't walk out the other side. It's not that I walk out the other side thinking, monster trucks are great. Oh, I love these things. I'll my personal shares, I think monster trucks are dumb. But anyway, it's stupid. But this is it's like they can sit there and go, oh, there's some art to this. There's something to it. It lights someone up. And especially if my partner is into monster trucks, I'll go with them because then I know what their world looks like. But there's no compromise. In other words, when we get home in the evening, I don't sit there and go, well, I did your thing and now you're going to have to do my thing. I don't keep score in my relationship of going, how many times did I go with you and you don't, and I went with you 10 times and you only went with me once, or you never went with me. So, you never do what I want to do. I'm always doing what you want to do. I always compromise and I've always sacrificed. And basically the person's like they're trying to be your emotional travel agent because they're trying to send you on a guilt trip. And it's like, where's this emotional guilt trip going to send me to? Because I don't want to feel emotionally abused, or I don't want to take emotional advantage of my partner. So why would I want them to compromise? Why would I want them to keep score? Why would I want to compromise or keep score? If this is supposed to be a loving, healthy relationship, then there is no compromise. I do the things I do, you do the things you do, and guess what? If you're important to me, and this is the nugget on top of all of it. If I say that you're important to me, and I'm not pretending that you are, because this is where compromise. I pretend you're important to me, but all I want you to do is everything I want you to do. That's compromise. And so if you are important to me, then this is what it looks like. I don't compromise. I make a simple decision. I make a simple choice going, you want to do something which is important to you. And guess what? It's important to you that I come with you. And because it's important to you and you're important to me, then I go willingly. I'm not a prisoner in this idea. I'm in a relationship, not a hostage situation. So I will go with you. And while I'm there, guess what? If it's my choice to go, I will not walk around with a long lip. I will not ask you, when are we going home? Are you done yet? Are you finished yet? Like I've had enough. I'm tired. My feet hurt. I'm thirsty. No. If this fires you up, I'm willing to sit there because I might be thirsty, I might be hungry, my feet might be sore, I might be so tired of watching, the next monster truck ride over the next car, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'd rather stick a nail through my eyeball. But guess what? This is what you want to watch, and because I said I'd go with you, I'm there because I'm there. I'm not there for that. I'm there for you, and I will. And it's not about me being weak and being what you want me to be. It's about me being as strong as I am and showing you that this is what it takes, or this is how important it is. And guess what? Just because I go with you to the monster trucks and I put myself through what I've experienced as torture, I don't see it as torture. Again, this is looking through the binoculars in a different way. I see it as commitment. I see it as love. I see it as support. And guess what? If I'm thirsty, then I get off my own bum and go and get myself a cold drink, or I go and find my own food. And guess what? If I'm going to go and get food and I see that you might be hungry, I'll say, while I'm gone, do you want food? And the person might be like, no, it's fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Thinking, no, I know they're probably going to get hungry. So when I go and stand in the queue to get food, I'll make sure that I get whatever I need, and I'll make sure that I get them a little tidbit, and I'll make sure I get something for them. Whether they eat it or not, doesn't matter. And I bring it back, and it's like, did you change your mind? Because sometimes you arrive back, it's like, oh, you know, now that you're back, I might actually, it's like, yeah, I'll have a little bit of forethought thinking, yeah, you weren't hungry now until I arrive with the food, and then you're going to get hungry. So let me just buy something anyway. And I'm not compromising anything. So here's the difference. I know when you step back, it looks like the same thing. Yes, it does. It looks like the same thing, but it feels very, 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 very different. And it takes you to a completely different destination. Compromise takes you to the destination of keeping score. It's a game played by two, and the scoreboard is watched by one person. They're keeping the score, and they get to call the shots, and it's a mess. I don't know how am I doing with the question.
No, good. I have another question. I have lots. I'm so sorry.
Okay, wait. Let
Anyway.
me land the plane on compromise quickly. So, in essence, what it takes, again, the four-lane highway, it's very simple. When you change the attitude of there is no sacrifice, there is no compromise, there's only decision, commitment, responsibility, and how about this? Love. Then you do those things willingly. It's simply choice. You know, when someone offers you, do you want strawberry ice cream? I want both. You know, and while I'm eating my chocolates, while I'm eating my chocolate ice cream and the strawberry one's melting, it's like, oh, I'm having a meltdown. It's like, you made a choice. Pick one. For every choice you make, you will, you know, by definition, if I choose one, I don't have the other one. You can't have your cake and eat it. You can't, you know, you can't invest $1 million and then it's like, oh, but I've lost my $1 million. It's like, well, which one do you want? Do you want to keep your $1 million, or do you want to invest it, or do you want to spend it? Pick one. You know, I want the car, but I don't want to pay for it. Well, pick one. If you don't pay for it, you don't get the car. And if you pay for it, then you get the car, but you spent your money. It's just a choice. But this idea that a human has of loss, like that's really the stuff that we need to work really hard to unravel. So yeah, it's turning the binoculars around and then taking a very close look and seeing it from a different point of view, going, I make no compromise in my relationship, and I do not want my partner to compromise for me at all, because I don't want us to be emotional vampires or emotional travel agents and sending each other on guilt trips, and you know, we basically feel like we have each other at ransom. It's horrible. It's horrible. At the same time, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, if it's important to them, then go with them. And if you're important to them and you say, I don't want to go this time, you know, the same thing happens. Well, if you don't want to go this time, don't. The same thing happens around Christmas and, you know, all of these things. It's like, whose family we're going to spend time with this year? We always spend time with your family. Well, figure it out. Are we going to go to both? Or how about this? I haven't seen my family in a while. You haven't seen yours. Why don't you go to yours? I'll go to mine. Or next year we'll go to yours, and then the year after we go to mine. Or, you know, or how about this? I don't want to go to either family. How about we just stay home and we spend time with our own family, and we spend it privately. We don't have to see everybody. And if everybody's going to have an argument about it, why don't we have a meeting in November instead and have a big, you know, get together? We get to see the family, and then it's not an argument. But yeah, humans want to set up an argument just so that we can feel better about the noise in our head. It's weird. Yeah, what's the next question?
Okay. The next question is about communication. So, just to clarify what I mean by communication, I'm literally just meaning talking to one another, because communication, you can also go down the rabbit hole just on what it means to communicate, because everyone hears everything differently, and so communication. But so that's just the other way. Let's just clarify that. So basically the question is, how important is communication in a relationship? Because I know there are people out there that They don't necessarily say everything and all their hopes and dreams and secrets and lies, and they don't share that with their significant other. But they have a great relationship, and it's one that works for them. So how important is communication actually? Is it like like, would your relationship be more successful if you share every little thing with your significant other?
Okay, well, that sounds like two different things, sharing and communicating.
I communicate.
So communication is, let's play a simple game. You get picked up by the scruff of your neck and they drop you in the middle of China. They don't speak the language, neither do you. You find someone and I mean, we play the game. So you get put with a person. And they're cool. They're nice people. But every time they talk, you're looking at them going, you're literally talking another language. In other words, I've no idea. I hear noises. I have no idea what you're saying. And they could be saying, I'm going to exaggerate for effect. I got a splinter in my toe. Would you support me getting the splinter out? Because, it's difficult for me to get it. But because you don't understand them, you're looking at them going, I've got no idea. And of course, when you start talking, they're thinking, I have no idea what the hell they're saying. But people are right in front. So, I mean, even to a point of normal language to body language, the person can go, take finger, grab toe, point finger, going look here, and you go, oh, okay, cool. There's still communication going on. So yes, at a level you can get past that and go, okay, we don't have to actually speak the same language. Again, you just play it out. Which one's going to be better? If none of you learn each other's language and see if you can muddle through somehow, well, you could. Here's another challenge. An English-speaking person walks through the door, and now you can actually speak to them. What changes? And I'm talking about this again, the same thing. They're the opposite sex. They can communicate with you. They talk to you. They start speaking your language. You're having fun. You have jokes. You suddenly feel a different level of connection. The person who speaks Mandarin sits in there going, okay, wait, you guys have a completely different level of connection. So how important is communication? Some people would say it's the most important. The thing is, we receive communication on so many levels, and yes, communication is massively important. Here's the challenge. Two challenges. One, you need to learn the other person's language. You need to learn how to communicate. And the other side of it is they need to learn how to receive communication. So watch the same conversation for both people. And I'm going to use the word you and say the same thing twice. You need to learn how to talk, and you need to learn how to listen. So imagine I'm looking at two people in a room. I point at the one on the left and I go, you need to learn how to talk and you need to learn how to listen. And I point at the other one. You need to learn how to talk and you need to learn how to listen. So we both need to learn each other's language. We both need to learn how to listen to each other's language. And we both need to know what that looks like. And this is where, and I fall prey to this one quite a lot. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. It's like, well, I'm very sorry I said it that way, because when I say it this way, do I sound condescending? It's like, yes, I do, because I need you to rub two brain cells together and think to yourself, am I standing here trying to torture you? And am I standing here trying to be derogatory to you? Or am I the person that you love and care for and the person who loves and care for you? Because do I have it in for you, or I'm actually trying to support you? And once again, you see the person sticking, they're walking towards sticking their finger in a plug, or they're about to touch a live wire, and you turn to them and say, don't do that. And then suddenly it's like, oh, why did you say it to me like that? You could have said that a lot nicer. It's like, okay, fine. So let's play the nice game. I'll try and say, babes, excuse me, dear. Excuse me, can I get your attention? Like, don't touch it, it could kill you. I don't have time for that. There are certain instances where you just don't have the space for those certain things. And I've seen it even before. I was actually watching a video where the people were fighting in the car. I think it was in Beijing or China somewhere. Or somewhere where there's tigers. Let me just put it like that. And it was Asia, some kind. And the woman got so upset, she got out of the car and decided that she's now going to get out of the car. But they were in a park with tigers. And it just so happened that a tiger came out of the bush and pulled her away. Yeah. Now I know that everybody can have an opinion about the story. I mean, it turns out the mother jumped out and saved the girl. Guess what happened? She saved the girl, but the tiger ate the mother. The mother died.
Mm.
That's how the whole thing transpired. Now, in many ways, I know people will think I'm dark and sick about this, but I'm not looking at thinking that the event is acceptable. In fact, that's what I'm trying to say, is that that is not acceptable.
Mm.
But I watch when people really get so excited about it's not what you said, it's how you said it, or you're not listening to me, or you're not I don't know, you're not validating my feelings or whatever it is. And then I watch where that takes the person. It's like it takes you to disaster. And I mean, this works both ways, because even as being on the male end of the spectrum, when I hear people talking to me, I've got to really put my head in a vice and say, okay, wait, is this what they mean? Is this what they're trying to say? Or can I get them to express it in a different way? Before I jump on the bandwagon. So how important is communication? It's very important. We need to learn how to communicate to the person we're talking to. But here's another challenge. And there's a factor of 64. If I need to learn 64 different ways to communicate to a person, I need to know which one of the 64 I'm talking to, and I need to know how one of these 64, hear what I'm saying. And I need to, I'm always on some sort of hot plate, dancing around, being some sort of circus monkey or some sort of circus act, trying to do it your way the whole time. And guess what? Because there's 64 different options, I'm going to get it wrong. And now you can blame me and you can nail me for getting it wrong all the time, even though it's just a little bit of a voice tone that I used, or, I didn't pause first, or how about this one? What if we both just worked on ourselves and said, okay, wait, you clearly communicate in a different way. You communicate, let's say, through feelings. I communicate through emotions. It's a different way of communicating. But now what if we can both learn and go, okay, wait, I'm hearing something which actually would trigger me, but is it coming from a person who wants to trigger me? No. Okay, so if it's not coming from a person who wants to trigger me, but they're saying things which do trigger me, maybe I need to adjust my perspective so that I can hear where they're coming from, and maybe we just got our wires crossed. So when it comes to communication, I'm getting more into what communication looks like. So answer a simple question. How important is communication? Very important. At the same time, as you need to know where the communication signal is coming from. If it's coming from your enemy and they want to come and bomb Pearl Harbor and they've got it in for you and they're coming to kill you and they're trying to sabotage you and ambush you, yes, I mean, pay attention. And then especially the way they say things and, all of those little things. But also, if this is coming from the person who, at least, doesn't have to, they don't have to love me. What about if they just like me? They're willing to be in the same room as me. It's like, okay, are they really trying to be nasty to me? And at the same time, man, this thing is so complex, because, we're living in a household which I came from a household. If we were sitting around a dinner table and we were having a hot debate, some people on the outside think we're arguing or fighting with each other. Meanwhile, we're just talking.
Same. Same
Same.
here.
So then people get excited about that. But also, I'm very clear that I've watched people in their communication styles. They believe the only way to communicate with their partner is to be derogatory and to constantly criticize them and tell them, why are you doing that? You're doing it wrong. You don't change the tire like that. I mean, they'll watch the person change the tire going, careful, you're going to get grease on your hands. No, you shouldn't tie it like this. You're going to, and then the moment you stop and it's like, would you like to take over? Oh, can't believe you said that to me. No, what? Like we got to grow up. It's like I say, the 4-lane highway, it's the completely like derailed going to the one is stable. And you got to ask yourself what kind of questions you're living in, or what kind of relationship you're in, what you're willing to accept or not accept, how you communicate with each other. Communication is very important, and probably what's more important than learning communication is learning that when the other person communicates, what is their intention? Because if I'm sitting there going, everybody just triggers me, it's like, yeah, okay, so you've been to 10 different places, and every place you've been to, you've been triggered. Yeah, I don't think it's those places anymore. There's a common factor. But if I've gone to 100 different places,
Well,
I get triggered once, and it's like, okay, so out of those 100, you got triggered once. Okay, maybe the person there, there's something there, like there's something outside of you. But we don't see that. So, and again, watch the communication style. When you communicate to the person, it's like, you tell me every place that you go to, they're always there to piss you off. It's amazing. You're the only person out of 100 that gets upset, but you get upset every place you go, and you don't believe that this is you. So communication works both ways. It's not about not only learning the other person's language or their style or anything like that. It's about learning how to listen. Learning how to listen. Because sometimes a person's like, they're saying all these words and it sounds fine. However, what they're doing is they're trying to set you up to fail. And when we can learn that style, going, okay, I know you're saying you love me. I know you're saying you care. I know, like, that's how people gossip. It's like, no, tell me. I won't tell anybody. No, you can tell me. You can trust me. And the moment you do, guess what? They're on the phone busy spreading the word or putting it on all kinds of social media. It's like, no. You're a spider in a web. So learning communication is not just learning how to talk. Learning communication is learning how to listen. It's learning if the person reaches out, you lean into them, especially if you like them. It's not about leaning away. It's not about having a ransom discussion. All of these things. Am I answering your question? I mean, I'm going down different rabbit holes here. So
Well, yes, you answered it in a short, very plain, like, yes, communication is very important. And you explained also why you say that. Do you wanna add to what you've said, or?
now I think some of the problems with me is like I could probably keep going too much. So in many ways, you got to kind of stop me. But the thing that rolls around in my head is because I've rolled this around, I've looked at it so many times. And here's the thing: is some people consider me the expert in this. It's like I still get this wrong. Or how about this? I still, people look at me going, "Oh, you're the expert in this, so you should get this right all the time." It's like, yeah. And of course, once again, let's go back to projection. You could blame me for getting it wrong because I'm the one without the ears, because I'm the one who's not willing to listen, because I'm the one who's not, you know, because I'm the unstable one, and I'm the one who hasn't looked at this for 25 years. Yeah, of course, it must be me. It's like, no, I've looked at this a lot. And I'm not saying my communication style is the best. I'm not saying that I never make a mistake. I'm not saying any of that. In fact, I'm going, okay, cool. If I make a mistake, can you point it out to me? And don't point a mistake because this is just how I feel. You need to point a mistake because how does it connect? And I might have triggered a feeling, that's fine. But how does it connect to the real world so that I can adjust my behavior? Because I'm totally willing to adjust my behavior or adjust my communication or how I talk to you. Of course I am, because you're important. And watch, you can even hear my voice tone. My voice tone can drop and I change the cadence of my voice. I speak slower because you're slow. I mean, because, whatever the communication style is required. And here's the thing, if I'm the one doing gymnastics or communication gymnastics, doing backflips and everything like that, just to get through to you, and I'm willing to listen, but you don't even know how to do a cartwheel, then I find it a little misguided to judge the fact that, or for you to have an opinion about my communication gymnastics, because I'm the one who's willing to listen. And this is very hard for people who want to talk about communication. Communication, people think communication is, the way people talk to them. It's like, yeah, this works. Keep it simple to 4 ways. It's the way both people talk to each other. So that's 1 and 2. It's the way people listen to each other. And there's a statement out there that's it's not what was said, it's what was heard. I hear that. Sounds nice. I've also had the experiences like I've said exactly the same thing in literally 8 different ways. And all they go is, no, I'm wrong. Or they're not willing to listen. Okay, then it's not my communication, it's your ability to hear. Communication works both ways.
Yeah, I do think this is one of the many things that, especially in the start of the relationship, in the start of a relationship, I think it's one of the many things that makes it difficult, because relationships are tough. And I do realize that some people they don't have the skills to. I don't want to insult anyone, but they don't have the skills to go out and recognize that they need to up their level of communication, because they are unaware. So yeah. Anyway, Andrew, I've got one last question for you, and it's a sort of like a tradition now on the podcast where the last guest leaves a question for the next.
Can I pause you there? Just before, I just want to close on one thing. The whole communication style, and there are people that don't know how to learn, or they don't have the skills. Here's the way I look at it. If you've ever made yourself a cup of coffee, there was once a time that you did not know how to make coffee. You learned how to do that because you wanted the coffee. So if you want to have good communication, you can learn it. All of these skills are learnable.
I agree.
These are all skills. There's nothing, well, okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but there's very few things which are unlearnable. And that doesn't mean you need to become the expert, and you don't need to become the best at anything. When someone says, this is just not part of my makeup, or I just don't know these things. Okay, are you willing to learn a little bit? Just a little bit. That excuse where people go, no, I just don't do it that way. Okay, then you won't mind if I leave your presence, or I don't want you around me because you're unwilling to learn. Now the person can blame you and go, oh, you see, you don't want to be around me because it just feeds into my primary belief system that, you see, I told you I was unlovable, or I'm not good enough. No, you're unwilling to learn. I learned all these things, and not because it was fun, and not because, and in many ways, not because I didn't even want to. I wanted to carry on my life just being the way I was. And it's just like, wait until just, you find someone that can actually tolerate your rubbish. It's like, no. And there are people around me that tolerate my rubbish. I'm not saying that my rubbish has gone away. I'm really full of it. And but just hearing the one person going, yeah, I just can't learn those things, or it's hard or whatever. Learn even three things in each domain. Learn just one simple thing. Learn we are capable of learning. We don't need to be an expert. We don't need to learn everything. We don't need to be the best in the world. But the moment that I hear an excuse, or I hear excuse my bad behavior because I just want to continue behaving badly. No, because now I become an accomplice to your crime.
Yeah.
No.
I know, obviously, I'm also not saying I'm perfect, but I do, because obviously people talk to one another, and I know if I meet someone new and they are immediately like, they did try it, but okay, so I have this thing against the word try. But anyway, if they come up with an excuse as to why something's not working, I immediately feel like then, like, you do not have the the right to complain then. If you just find excuses and you're not looking for solutions to your problem, which you say is a problem, and it's in actual fact probably not a problem. The moment you start to complain, I I just want to eat you. I don't know. I've got some things on that.
Well, people tried to walk.
Sorry.
So you just put it simply. If you tried to walk once and you fell down, then why are you walking now? You figured it out. And walking is way more important than crawling around into your adult life.
Just
if you figured out
imagine we had to crawl.
Yeah, in the beginning you crawl. And in the beginning your knees get scuffed, and and not many things. The stuff on the table is not available to you because you're crawling. So walking is more important to you, and it's way more effective. And you learned how to walk. You learned how to feed yourself. You learned how to make the cup of coffee or a cup of tea. You learned these things. So we are learning machines. And it is tough because it's like we do try many different things and we fail, and not everything works, and we get the feedback. Doesn't matter what you try, you can't win. And I'm all about it. And I know this happens, and I go through this dark night of the soul myself. It's like, oh my gosh, I know all these things and it's still not working. And, I still fall flat on my face and I still sit with my own emotions. And, why can't it just be better? Or why can't people just see what I'm trying to get through to them? And I have all of these own internal conversations. Sure. Again, which is more important to you, crawling or walking? And then when they say, I've tried it. Okay, so you've tried it. Are you willing to try again? Are you willing to do it slightly differently? And if you are, great. Then let's keep going. Attempt it again and again and again. And if 1,000 people have attempted it and it didn't work, we can sit there and go, okay, 1,000 people have tried it 1,000 different ways, which means we've attempted this thing a million different ways. It hasn't worked. We can all agree, going, okay, this idea is not going to
Yes,
work.
not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you got one person say, I've tried it, and well, how about this? I've done everything and nothing works. It's like, well, then you just haven't tried everything. What we do know is that what you've tried hasn't
It
worked.
doesn't work.
Now that okay, fine. What you've tried, and it didn't work for you, because you might have someone else who's tried exactly the same thing and it worked for them. They're happy with the result. Didn't work for you, great. But yeah, so just to pause on that idea of what the stuff we're talking about here, the important part is communication is learnable. Taking responsibility is learnable. Being infatuated and being in love, all of this, everything that we've spoken about so far is literally learnable. We just got to get out of our own ways, get off our opinion. It's all learnable. And we need to put it into how does it work for us? And then, of course, how does it work for the other person? It's got to work for the other person. Just because I'm right and it doesn't work for all the people around me, well, then my rightness will leave me in isolation. So I need to be willing to say, well, I might be right, and it doesn't work for all the people around me. At the same time, then these people around me are important to me. So, and that was coming back to the collaboration thing, or even rational. Sometimes the most rational person needs to play an irrational game to win the rational game. The irrational will never play that game. They are too irrational to play that game at all, because they just live in the space of irrational or irrationality, because they just won't make the leap. It's the ones that I put it like this: a drunk person will really struggle to pretend to be sober. A sober person can easily act drunk. That kind of vibe. And those who are drunk pretend that they are sober and they're not. And those who are sober can go, I'll play drunk for a while, to fit in, but I'm not drunk. And you also have the choice going, I know that you want me to play drunk or even just get drunk with you. No, I don't like the hangover the next morning. You do you. And when tomorrow morning you feel like crap, cool. But I'm going to be doing my thing. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to make noise in the house, or I'm going to go and do my thing. And don't think I'm leaving you behind going, oh my gosh, can't you just nurse me for a second? No, if you can't see tomorrow, it doesn't mean that tomorrow doesn't exist. So on so many levels, this stuff it becomes so simple and so easy when we know how difficult and complicated it is. The thing is to know how difficult and complicated it is. It's so much graft and so much effort that most people just don't want to put the effort in. They just want to carry on doing what they do, find someone that's willing to tolerate their rubbish. And guess what? If you tolerate my rubbish, well, guess what? I'll grant you the same thing. I'll tolerate yours. And as long as we both tolerate each other for a while, yeah, we're doing great. Everything's cool. Okay. Then that's the level of relationship you have, and that's the level of life you've got. You do you. Carry on. Don't bitch and whine that other people have it better than you. And that's part of the challenge. So what's the final question?
Just a note on your last comment, and I think I'm fortunate enough to say that you know me on a personal level, not like just you know me on a personal level and not just professional level here, but I do not want a life like that. I am not willing to settle, and I wish that everyone can be that way, but yes, there are people out there that are willing to settle, and there's a space for them in this world. I just do not want to be part of that space. So, and you can hold me accountable to that.
Well, it's not that they're willing to settle. It's just in their mental framework. They don't, they don't know what they don't know. And it's almost a case of what's called learned helplessness. They've learned over time that whatever they've done or whatever it is, or putting in the effort, doesn't pay off. And then they just sit back and then they're bitching why they didn't get promoted or why they didn't start their business or why they didn't earn the salary they want. So it's a big challenge. So it's not the fact that it's a learned helplessness. It's not the fact that they settle. They just don't. I'll use the words in this way. They don't know any better. The thing is, once they've gotten to the place of they don't know any better, they live and die on that hill because they go, nothing will work for me. There is nobody else for me. Nobody understands me, and they sink into that hole. And even if you put a ladder into the hole to get them out of the hole, instead of using the sorry again.
It's too deep? Like
No. The hole is not too deep. Instead of using the ladder to climb out of the hole, they'll break the ladder apart so they can make the fire at the bottom of the hole. Because it's cold at the bottom of the hole. And then they want you to put in another ladder. It's like, I'm giving you a ladder to get out. And that's, if I could just let this sink in, it's a learned helplessness. And eventually we go, well, I can't get at what I want. So eventually I'll just get what I have. I'll just settle. Because it's around. And I was, again, I speak from experience. I lived that life. I found myself settling because I didn't believe that I was capable to get better, or I felt that I just, things were above my weight class, or above my pay grade, or above my security clearance, or whatever you want to call it, whatever it was. And it's like, and only once I made the decision going, if this is a skill, and I'm able to learn and I increase my skills, can I level up? And when I did that, that's when things change. And then in that learning going, okay, when I increased my skills, then I leveled up, and then a whole different world opened to me. And going through that part is the part. That's actually the challenge. You need to get to the place of going, okay, am I willing to at least give this a go, attempt this, and see if I can increase my skill? And that challenge right there, that's the difficult part, because going through that part, it is the valley of despair. You generally go through it alone. You go through it not knowing what to do. You go through it confused. You go through it frustrated. You go through it going, I'm not sure if this is even going to work. I'm not even sure if this is even worthwhile. All of these things are going through your mind and is going through your body. And this is why we need to really get a handle on our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, and how these things interact with each other. And then also getting the small win. You need to get the experience of going, what I'm doing is actually getting me closer to where I really want to be. So the difference between, do I choose to just live in a hole and stay there, or even walking across the mountaintops, the wind blows, the wind's cold, you exposed to the elements, all of the stuff is tough, so you suffer if you're in the hole, and you suffer if you're walking across the mountaintops. You're going to suffer anyway. Which one are you willing to suffer more for? The one just being right and saying nothing's going to work for me, or the one going, I want to actually get this better? And the people around you, if you've got people around you, they respect the person more going, they were willing to get out the hole. They were willing to give it a go. They're willing to put in the effort. The ones that they don't respect, it's, well, I've offered you to get out the hole and you don't. And again, we need to be very clear in the sense of, and this is not empathy, have the compassion for the person going, I recognize that this seems tough. This seems almost impossible. It sounds like this is just too far. It's just too much for you. It's overwhelming. Okay. What's our capacity to make it less overwhelming for you, and see if you can be supported out? And of course, we will get people that will say, it's too much for me. I'm okay. I'm willing to settle. And a level of awareness. If you're willing to settle and you're aware that you're willing to settle, then fine. And here it's a sticky and a hard thing to say to someone, that you're settling. In many ways, you don't actually settle. We just feel like we do because we feel that we're either owed something or that we are capable of more. The challenge comes in is if you're capable of more, then why aren't you doing more? If you wanted more, well, it's out there waiting for you. Are you willing to accept what you've gotten for the effort you've put in? And it's to work through that phase. This is what got me to where I am. And again, I'm not the best, the expert, the only, the most enlightened. It's got nothing to do with that. It's recognizing you're still going to make mistakes, even when you're good at it. You've got two people playing this game. The moment you bring a second person in, all of the dynamics change. You don't live in a solitary life. You don't live by yourself. You live with other people, even to the point of just going to work. All of these things interplay. And yeah, the one thing you got to ask yourself is, which one hurts the most? Settling, or at least working to get what you feel that you want?
Mm.
In essence, in essence, we all settle. You know, you buy a house and you settle in it because that's where you are. You settle down. And people say, when are you going to settle down? So we all eventually settle. The question is, let's call it, what's your happiness scale when you get there?
Mm.
And for me, even on the other side of all of my past experiences, I will trade all of the I look good to everybody else to what it feels like for me. And that was one of the big things. I was doing a lot of stuff for other people, and then other people think I'm settling, or eventually I feel like I'm settling. However, when I got clear on what I wanted and I found what I was looking for, and again, this is the choice thing. I don't do it because I feel like I'm compromising. Then there is no compromise, there is no settling, and it's by choice going, I'm really happy to be here. And for as long as we are both happy to be here and we both treat each other well, I will trade a person who treats a person, I'll make it about myself, just make the language easier. I will trade a person treating me well over any person who just looks this absolute part that you want to throw on Instagram. Because sometimes you throw them on Instagram, you know, call it the big house, the jet, the cars, the whatever it is. I don't care. The fake boobs, whatever. Looks fantastic. And all your friends go, oh my gosh, like so well and so nice. And they almost feel
I want that
jealous.
too.
I want that
Yeah.
too. But meanwhile, you close the doors, and from the time people leave, or by the time from the time the camera turns off to the time the camera gets turned back on, they
It's
treat
a
you terribly.
horrible
They fight with you.
experience.
They argue with you. They put you in some sort of emotional prison. They're emotionally abusing you, or they're being passive aggressive, and whatever it is. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm worth way more than that, and I'd rather be treated nice than look good.
Mm.
It's my
Mm.
Yeah, so you don't, yeah, the idea of settling. What's the question?
Okay, so the question, I'm going to read it. So, we live in a very unsure and frightening time with regards to the news and what is happening in the Middle East. And now the massive increase in petrol price that will have a great influence on our lives, our everyday lives. And if you think of how it influences you, your money, and our country's economy, one wants to sometimes become discouraged, or one feels discouraged. So what do you do to still keep hope or stay positive and not get discouraged in these difficult world economic environments that is currently around us?
Yeah, simple question, simple answer. I'll give you a very simple answer and then I'll expand. Simple answer is you keep going. You have multiple choices in front of you. You keep going. Because no matter what you do, is whether you buy petrol or not, petrol price will increase.
Mm.
Whether you participate in the game or not, the game will carry on. You can be despondent and you can whine, bitch, and complain about it. And it'll just keep doing its thing. So I'll talk about the bigger problem. The big problem is exactly what we've just spoken about this entire podcast.
Mm.
People in relationships. So you've got politicians in relationship with each other making terrible decisions which influence other people. So them coming from a very insecure and immature perspective without realizing what's actually going on. Because the reality is peace is always better than war. I know people say that war is a massive income generator, but only for the people that are participating in the game. And we're all fighting for resources. When we eventually get to a world where it doesn't matter who's got the resource, the question is, can this resource be distributed evenly? That's a great idea. So we live in a particular place. And I'll give you my quick personal take. My quick personal take is we fight with the people in the system, but we don't fight with the people who create the system. And we're also not looking at the system itself. So we know that the system is broken, but instead of fixing the system, we fight with the people that are playing the system. So for example, petrol price goes up. Who feels it the most? The poor, or the people that are already on the edge, the people that are already under pressure. And that's the masses. So the masses feel it the most. And I'm part of the masses, so I'm part of it. I will feel the pinch of petrol. I'll feel the pinch of groceries going up, food, everything, electricity, all of that. So it's not a question of, I'm sitting here going, one of my personal little side discussions of privilege and all the rest of it. It's not from a position of privilege. We don't ask the question of going, if this is a problem, how do we avoid it? We're stuck in a very reactive situation going, this is the problem and how am I reacting to it? So the idea of inflation and the economy, it doesn't have to be the way it is. The thing is, to change this it's going to take everybody. Look at the earlier conversation. Everybody needs to collaborate and everybody needs to coordinate. And this is part of playing the game over the long term. But we've got people who are willing to betray us quickly because this is the prisoner's dilemma, that they will get the quick win. And they'll get the quick win early, but we'll lose over time. And that's the same thing with war. You get the quick win short term, you might get some ground, you might get some oil, you might get some resources, or you might be perceived as being important. Long term, we all suffer.
Thank you very, very much for having a chat with me and talking to me about relationships. And I always have more questions about it. So, but
Life,
we'll
the
get to
universe, and
it.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I really, really enjoyed our conversation today, and I hope I see you again soon.